The Spider Slayers, much like the Sentinels from X-Men, are robots designed to hunt, capture, and/or kill their prey. But rather than hunting down a large group of individuals, mutants like the Sentinels do, they go after an even narrower target, that being Spider-Man. The original Spider Slayers were created by robotic scientist Spencer Smythe, but following his death, the legacy of his frightening machines would be kept alive through his son Alistair, who also inherited the same burning hatred his father had for Spider-Man. The first model of Spider Slayer, the Mark I, debuted among the pages of The Amazing Spider-Man number 25 from June of 1965 and was created by Spencer Smythe with the financial backing of J. Jonah Jameson. Hoping to capture Spider-Man, Jonah would remotely control the first Spider Slayer, which had a gray, humanoid design and displayed the operator's face in a screen on its head. It had the ability to climb walls, fire metal tentacles and coils out of its body, and was made with a special chemical coating which made the surface of it frictionless. Smythe and Jameson would return with another Spider Slayer in issue 58, the Mark II, which improved upon the original design, made much bulkier and stronger than the first. It was controlled remotely by Jameson yet again, could walk on walls, had the same type of slick chemical coating on it that the Mark I had, but this time was also equipped with a powerful destructo beam it could fire from its head. The Mark III Spider Slayer would have an appearance resembling a giant mechanical spider, and would be the final of Smythe's models to be piloted by Jonah, because its control would be hijacked by Spencer Smythe, who wanted to kill Spider-Man, not just trap him. The Mark III could fire a web-like substance to ensnare its prey, and had a retractable blade that could cut through Spider-Man's webbing. I think Jameson funding Smythe's early Spider Slayers and piloting them to go after Spider-Man is further affirmation that he is one of Spidey's central villains. The man gets a thrill out of hunting Spider-Man and injuring him, causing property damage, and risking the lives of innocent bystanders that get in the way. Jameson's face is also visible for all the world to see, which begs the question, how has he not been arrested yet? Jameson's personal feelings towards Spider-Man impair his rational thought. The man can be a lunatic sometimes. I mean, in a newer She-Hulk comic, Jonah having his new daughter-in-law over for dinner, envisioning what his grandchildren would be like, gets upset and dusts off the Mark I Spider Slayer he had been keeping in his attic and attacks her with it. He had been keeping it in his attic. What the fuck? Anyways, back to the Spider Slayers. Moving forward, Spencer Smythe would go after Spider-Man alone, without the help of Jameson. His Mark IV Spider Slayer was a larger version of Mark III that allowed Smythe to physically pilot it from the inside. It had the ability to release ethyl chloride to knock out its foes. The fifth incarnation of the Spider Slayer was not made by Smythe, but rather a joint venture between Jameson and his close friend and eventual wife, Marla Madison, an electrobiologist from Empire State University. It had various weapons sticking out of its chest, tank-like wheels on each foot, and was controlled using a special helmet. The Mark V could also emit a beam of light to blind its target. The last of the Spider Slayers to be created by Spencer Smythe was the Mark VI. It was his strongest model to date, armed with laser guns, web cannons, and metallic coils. It was destroyed during a battle with Spider-Man when it fell off of a tall building and crumbled to pieces. The Mark VI would be the final Spider Slayer made by Spencer Smythe because he would die due to the radiation poisoning caused by the production of these machines. The Spider Slayers would not die with Spencer though, as previously mentioned, as his son Alistair would continue his father's work and would blame Spider-Man for his death. He would end up building the Mark VII Spider Slayer, which looked like a flying saucer with extendable claws. It would end up crashing into a water tower during his battle against Spider-Man, and then short-circuited when it hit some power lines. Following this, Alistairs was somehow paralyzed, because in his next appearance, he would be seen in a wheelchair. Alistairs' next Spider Slayer, the Mark VIII, was essentially an amalgamation of several of the previous models and their capabilities. It had a humanoid design once again, with elongated limbs that could reach far distances. It had a laser cannon on its head, could release ethyl chloride out of its fingertips, and Alistairs was able to pilot it from within its large torso. The Mark X Spider Slayer resembled a xenomorph from the Alien franchise, and is one of the more memorable versions of the Spider Slayers for me. It debuted in the Invasion of the Spider Slayers saga from the 1990s, so did the Mark XI model, which was bird-shaped. Mark XII was made humanoid once more, and was heavily armored, resembling War Machine, and would attack Spider-Man while he was battling another one of his iconic villains, Electro. Okay, so this next one was pretty weird. The Mark XIII was more biological looking, like some kind of fleshy silly putty that could stretch its entire body to capture its enemies. The Mark XIV Spider Slayer, also known as the Mega Slayer, had an artificial intelligence with 3 separate personalities, all modeled after Max Young, an assistant of Mendel Stromm. Spider Slayers Mark 15, 16, and 17, based on a Black Widow spider, tarantula, and scorpion respectively, were pretty awesome, because they were capable of combining into a much larger Super Slayer. The 18th version of the Spider Slayer was silver and blue, with a red screen on its head that could fire laser beams out of each of the 6 arms it possessed. It was another one of the bigger humanoid models, and was sent to attack May Parker's house. Now I'm going to circle back, because you may have noticed I skipped over one of the Spider Slayer models, the Mark IX, and I did this on purpose. In the early 1990s, when North American superhero comics were beginning to jump the shark in basically every conceivable way, Alistairs Smythes was taken in a new radical direction, repairing his spine with cybernetic implants, giving himself superhuman levels of strength and speed. He would coat his body in a protective bioorganic shell, and attach talons to his feet and sharp protruding blades to his forearms. He became the ultimate Spider Slayer, his own greatest weapon against Spider-Man. While it was, without question, a product of its time, the concept behind the Ultimate Spider Slayer was, and still is, fucking awesome. Not only do I simply love the idea of the Spider Slayers in general being killing machines that are constantly built and improved upon, challenging Spider-Man and pushing his abilities and problem-solving skills to their absolute limits, but having Alistairs become so fixated on defeating Spider-Man, so poisoned by his vendetta, that he is willing to trade his humanity, turn himself into his own experiment, and further enhance his body is just lunacy, and perfectly encapsulates Alistairs Smythes and the Spider Slayers as a whole. Because their creation requires sacrifice, there are consequences involved. It's a double-edged sword. Alistairs destroyed his body just like his father destroyed his. It's a vicious cycle. This has been NerdGasm. Let me know what you think of Alistairs Smythes and the Spider Slayers down in the comments section below. Also, which version of them is your favorite? I want to thank you all for watching the video. I hope you got something out of it and were entertained throughout. If you'd like to support the channel and its content, you can do so by subscribing, hitting that bell icon to be notified of all the future videos I release, and by becoming a producer on patreon.com if you can. I will see you all in the next one. Take care, stay safe, and always stay nerdy.